With the debut of the women's 3,000-meter race at the Olympics, it became the longest track race available to women at the time. Adding to the event's buzz was the matchup between the two favorites to win the gold. One, an experienced American with an impressive resume, the other, a newly minted British citizen and teenage upstart who had set the world record for the 2,000 meters just a month prior. The two had never raced each other before, but the media framed them as rivals, America's sweetheart versus Britain's new prodigy. By the time they lined up on the track, the world was ready for a duel. The only certainty in everyone's mind was that at the end of the race, one of these women would have won gold, the other, silver. But there are no sure things in sports, and this dramatic race was no different. When it was over, one of these two top contenders had dropped out, and the other had finished in 7th place. Today is Sunday, August 10th, 2025, and on this day in 1984, Mary Decker and Zola Budd cemented their place in running infamy with a collision on the track during the first ever women's Olympic 3,000-meter final. In this episode, we'll discuss the backgrounds of both Decker and Budd, learn how the race and fall played out, and then pivot from heartbreak to victory as we meet Lynn Kanuka, the Canadian underdog who seized the opportunity to become an Olympic medalist. I'm your host, Running Up That Hillary, and you are listening to Today in Running History. Mary Decker was born in New Jersey in 1958 and saw immediate success in distance running from her very first race at the age of 10. She was 12 the first time she broke 5 minutes in the mile, and it was also that year that on a whim she ran a marathon and finished first in 3 hours and 9 minutes. She was 12. At 14, she set her first world record in the indoor mile. Injury had prevented her from competing at the 1976 Olympics when she was 18, but as the subsequent Olympics approached in 1980, Mary Decker was at her prime. That January, she had broken the outdoor mile world record and had won gold and qualified in the 1,500 meters that summer at the U.S. Olympic trials. But unfortunately for Decker, the United States ultimately boycotted the 1980 Olympics, so she did not get a chance to compete. Zola Budd was born in South Africa in 1966, and like Mary Decker, she was a child running prodigy. Budd, however, had been too young to compete in prior Olympics, so 1984 was her first time competing internationally. That January, at 17, Budd broke the women's 5,000-meter world record, and in July, shortly after turning 18, she broke the 2,000-meter world record as well. Oh, and she had a habit of running and setting these records while barefoot. But Zola Budd faced another problem when it came to getting to the Olympics. Her native South Africa had been under a colonialism-based system of racial segregation called apartheid since 1948, and beginning in 1964, the country had been barred from international sports competitions, including the Olympics. But because Zola Budd showed such promise in athletics, and because her grandfather had been British, she was encouraged to apply for UK citizenship and compete for Team Great Britain instead. Her citizenship was granted almost immediately, which sparked controversy, but ultimately she arrived in Los Angeles for the 1984 Olympics, ready to run as a Brit. The qualifying heats for the 3,000-meter final were on August 8th, and Decker and Budd ran in separate heats. In the first heat, Mary Decker won in a new Olympic record, and in the third, Zola Budd finished third. Then on August 10th, 1984, exactly 41 years ago today, Decker and Budd lined up on the track along with 10 other women. The gun went off and Mary Decker immediately took the lead. Halfway through the first lap, Zola Budd moved up so that she was right next to Decker, and the two remained shoulder to shoulder for the next 3 laps. On the backstretch of the 5th lap, Budd and Decker collided, then recovered, then collided again. This time, Budd stumbled into Decker's path, leading Decker to kick Budd's ankle with her spikes, then tripped on the inner curb of the track and fell to the ground. Reading the descriptions, it's really, really confusing what exactly happened. I encourage y'all to go and watch the actual footage of the race because I was trying to put it into writing and reading people's summaries of what happened and the way that her leg moves. The whole thing is really hard to describe without looking at it. So I recommend all of y'all going and watching footage of the race. But anyways, Mary Decker fell She was visibly injured and dropped out of the race at that point. Her boyfriend, who was also competing at the 1984 Olympics, carried her off the track as she cried. Zola Budd initially recovered from the collision but lost the lead to Maricica Puica of Romania and Wendy Sly of the UK, then regained it, then lost it again just before the bell lap. Halfway through the final lap, Zola Budd was passed by Canadian athlete Lynn Williams and then was passed by another three women before finally reaching the finish line in seventh place. Both Decker and Budd were devastated with the result of that race, but that fall had given Lynn Williams the chance to pull ahead, which led to her winning a bronze medal for Team Canada in the first ever women's Olympic 3,000 meters. A couple weeks ago, I sat down with Lynn, who now uses her maiden name, Kanuka, to learn more about her background and what that race meant for her career. Let's see that interview. All right, so I am here with Lynn Kanuka. How are you this morning? Or how are you this afternoon? Because you were in Switzerland right now.
Yes, I am, and I'm just great, thank you. It's a great day here, and I don't know, every day's got a twist to it or something. So it's always an adventure. So thanks for asking. I'm very well, thank you.
Awesome. Now let's talk about your background in running prior to the 1984 Olympics. How did you get started?
Oh, I grew up in a household that was really active. My parents were supportive armchair kind of athletes, I guess, and they threw us all in activities, just to keep us out of trouble, basically. And so I was active in all kinds of sports and mostly speed swimming as a kid.
Oh,
So they threw us in the pool. I grew up in Regina, Saskatchewan in Canada, and it's cold there in the wintertime. So if you're not playing hockey, then you're probably at the swimming pool. And so that was my background. And just, very quickly, I think, I sort of developed some pretty good lung capacity back, swimming back and forth in that pool. And when I eventually had enough of speed swimming, I was now flash forward into high school, well into high school, into my last year of high school. And I just was at a place where, I don't know, sometimes you feel like you're changing, your body's changing. Young women, I was, headed towards university the following year. And I just wanted I missed being active in a regular fitness way, like you are with speed swimming. I guess I'd stopped when I was maybe 13 or 14 and then played sports. And I thought, I'm just going to do something for myself. And I bundled up and went outside in that minus 30 cold. Sometimes I think, I don't know what possessed me, because certainly at that time, my friends were not involved in the sport of running at all, and not in minus 30 snow and
yeah,
cold. But
wow.
I just wanted the challenge, and I went out the door and ran out to the university and back. At that time, it was maybe 2 or 3 kilometers at most, I would say. And then the cross country coach at my high school, I never knew anything about cross country. It was a small group. I used to play volleyball instead in school at that fall time of year, and I certainly wasn't going to be a great volleyball player. I wasn't a bad setter, but I'm only like 5 foot nothing really. So I thought, oh, cross country running. And so I went out and I raced, and I did well right off the bat, but it was so hard. I wasn't fit for that kind of effort, didn't really know anything about it, but I was competitive. Given a sports situation, I would be competitive. So I practically killed myself trying to race. And but when you discover you're good at something, I think, a little voice inside kind of propels you forward. And another coach said, "Oh, you're running. Maybe you should train a little, and this would get a little easier." So, I think, like with anything, your path, you make a decision, and your path sort of goes back and forth. And if it weren't for many really supportive people kind of egging me on, nudging me along, even at such a kind of a later stage in life, really a lot of people start running earlier. I didn't. And so one thing led to another, and I had success. I made a cross country team, a provincial team, first of all, and then a Canada Games team, it's called. And then I made
Wow.
very quickly, yeah, within a couple of years, I found myself racing at the national championships and making a world cross country team. And that was amazing to be in the top six in the country. And I went to my first international event was in Ireland in
Oh, wow.
19,
How
I don't know,
cool.
in the late 70s, And so it was all about the social connection for me, though.
Yeah.
I loved it all that I met some great, great people that are my friends to this day. And I thought, I like this sport, and gosh, off I
That's so
went. And
funny because that's pretty much the same thing at the much, much, much lower level that I run at. So
uh,
much of it is also the social connection. We're not going to world championships, but
yeah.
we're all training for the Chicago Marathon right now in my run club. So we
Oh, that's
we're
so
we're we're
great.
doing that. And it's the same sort of thing. I love hearing the parallels between
Hmm.
the absolute top level of athletes and then those of us are just normal people.
Hey, we're just loving this thing called running. And as a coach, that's certainly my experience. I've coached everybody from those off the couch to, high level track athletes. And so I do draw those parallels myself all the time. We're all athletes. We're all trying to put our best foot forward, and that is what it's about.
I love that. So let's talk about leading up to the 1984 Olympics, the trials and
Right.
everything. What did that look like?
Oh my gosh. It's so hard to just sort of put it together, but I had wound up with a scholarship at San Diego State University for
Oh,
the
wow.
years just before the Olympic Games, and I graduated in 1983 from SDSU. And that was great. You got to know, coming from Saskatchewan and the minus 30-degree temperatures, I had a ball in San Diego. And
You can't get better weather than San Diego.
no, and I was, I also then there was a performance element to that experience, of course. But I did run a lot of races, as you often do when you're in that university college environment. You're trying to get points, and I had some good endurance. And so the reason I'm sharing that too is that I really wound up injured pretty well every summer that I was, at university. I had the whole university season, but then I wasn't able to do any track in the summers. And I kind of had enough. I thought, okay, I've done well. I don't know, all American. I've done my thing, and I've been very successful as far as I knew in university. And I thought I wanted to go back to school, and I wanted to be a doctor actually.
Oh,
And
wow.
my partner though at the time was I had met him on one of our world cross country team trips, and then he later became my husband. Um, but at that time he said, Lynn, you've never really had a track season. Like you've had it during the collegiate season, but you ran so many races. Why don't you just give it a go where you focus on just yourself? There's nobody to worry about with a team, and see what you can do. One more year. The Olympic trials are next year. Let's see. And I really and truly never imagined that I would make the Olympics, let alone, have an Olympic medal. It just wasn't in my kind of my wheelhouse at that time. So the the short version then is I found a fantastic coach in Canada. I wound up in British Columbia, and Thelma Wright became my coach, and she was the Canadian record holder in the 1500 and 3000 meters
Oh, wow.
previously and at that time. And so I found myself, wanting to chase her records, and she thought I could do it. And we focused, and I improved. Oh my gosh, I went from running, you know, I don't know what I used to run, 9:10 or something in the collegiate world for 3000 meters. And then suddenly I was running, 850, 850 or something, 855, which was something I had to run under 9 minutes to qualify for the Olympic trials. And I did that right away in the winter season, went to the
Wow.
trials, won the nationals, and then leading up to the games themselves in this was where I was so excited because I had a little training group. We had I had some collegiate age boys and even a couple of high school boys that were, and there's a, high performance women, and that age group of
Yeah.
boys
Yeah.
sometimes really works together. And it was fun because they were silly and goofy and there was never any pressure. And I trained also with some of Thelma was a teacher. My coach was a teacher. And so she would stagger some of her track athletes to fit in with my workouts. And we just had a ball. But I broke what was my Canadian record a couple weeks before the games at home at the track, nothing official. We just did our own little time trial. And I ran something like in the mid 840s, 845 or something
Wow.
like that. And it was the fastest time that had been run so far that year going into the games. And so
Wow.
I also felt I could run a lot faster. And so I was so excited. I just thought, nobody's looking at me. I'm just this Canadian nobody going into the games. I had made the world, what did I make? The world athletics team the year before. The very first world championships for track and field were in 1983 in Helsinki in Finland. So I had an experience at a games. So I wasn't nervous about any of that. And going to LA, our team was stationed in San Diego. So that was like going home for me. And
Yeah.
I just felt super excited. That maybe is a long-winded version, but it's kind of crazy. I wasn't going to run anymore. And suddenly I just knew I could run with the best in the world. And I don't think anyone else really knew it the way I did. So that
That's
was
great.
exciting for me.
That's
Yeah.
great. Now, going into that 3,000 meter final, and at the time, y'all would run the 3,000 meters. It was replaced later on by the 5,000 meters. For anyone
Mm-hmm.
listening, since we don't have
Yes.
that as an event anymore at the Olympics, but going into that final,
Mm-hmm.
what was your goal? Did you want to go after a medal? Was it you wanted to see what you could do? What did that look like?
Oh, I knew I had an outside shot at a medal, and I thought for sure I could place in the top five. I really did. But first, you have to get through the rounds, which is really pressure ridden, and that was really tough. So, got there, made it through the rounds, and it was insane because of the hype around that race. And
Yeah.
Mary Decker had, as the American sweetheart and favorite, and obviously such a beautiful runner and talent, she had won the world championships the year before. And I was in awe of those games. And now, though, from flash forward to this year, I was in a different place personally.
Yeah.
Um, and she was in a different place as well. She definitely, had fought some injury issues and, I was not in the same form, I don't think, that she was in at the Worlds the year before. And Zola Budd from South Africa, like that whole story, the two of them being front runners, and little Zola Budd from South Africa running in her bare feet. I think she was only, I don't know if she was 17 or 18 years old at the time. There was just so much hype around it. And oh my gosh, I will never forget coming out of the call room for the final, and like the crowd, we were not even announced yet as the start of the final, but somebody saw, the crowd noticed that we were coming onto the track and saw Mary, and I felt for her because wow, that stadium erupted right away. And even now it gives me goosebumps because I remember just thinking, oh God, I gotta focus, I gotta find some focus. And then I'd say, no one's looking at you, Lynn. Just forget it. It's okay. Put your head down. Think about this. You're ready for this. And then, no, I could just be home having a cup of coffee, reading the paper. What am I doing here in front of all these people? Oh my God. It was, and then, that's how it is as an athlete. You have different voices and you have to find the one that, pushes you into the right place. And so, once we started our final prep with a few exercises and things, then I was really excited. But I felt for Mary, I felt for Zola Budd in there, and that sort of that pressure, and with the roar of the crowd, I also won't forget when the announcer then said, "Ladies and gentlemen, will you please be quiet for the start?" And
Wow.
it went from it gives me goosebumps now. It went from a huge roar to it was like you could hear a pin drop, and that was super
Wow.
unnerving. You just remember certain things. I really remember that. And then, then the gun went off, and now you're in the race. And so what was my plan? To stick in there. I knew it was going to be fast, and it
Yeah.
was. We were on world record pace for, I don't know, 3 or 4 laps before the crazy fall happened.
Yeah. Tell us about the fall because that's the number one thing that people remember about that race.
Yeah. Yes, it was really tight, and tight. I mean, there was, there were many women vying for that inside lane, and tight on the track. And I think it was a really quite a good quality field, considering how many years we'd been doing the 3,000, not very many, and so on. And I was getting bumped and jostled, and Mary and Zola were really just in front. I was somewhere in the pack, like maybe sixth place or somewhere in there at that time, and I could see them bumping, and Mary's got a beautiful stride, and Zola also has a strong kickback, and I mean they just kind of bumped into one another. Before we knew it, I don't know if they locked ankles, but boom, Mary was down on the track, and we all had to do a. It wasn't easy for any of us. There were a couple others that tripped and fell as well, and but when we came around the track, I assumed that Mary would get up. I never expected, oh, this is going to be tough, but she's so strong, and she'll be up and join the pack at some point. And then we came around, and bam, she was down there, rolling, writhing around. And it was so crazy. Like the crowd was now booing, and we all lost focus. And we went from being a tight pack to being really spread out. And for me, a couple of laps went by where all I could think about was why they're all booing. Everybody's booing now. Like there was foul play, and then you just got to try to wake up. And I didn't wake up until the bell lap. All of a sudden, I heard ding, 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 and I was like, "What? Really?" And Lynn, what are you doing? Wake up! Aren't as an athlete, what do
Yeah.
you try to find your rhythm again, and the voice in your ear again, that sort of arms, 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 focus on somebody in front of you. Well, I don't know if I was in, again, I think I was in about sixth place or something, and I passed somebody in front of me, and then again, and then I looked up, and I could see Zola Budd was faltering, and coming back towards me. And then I looked up, and I could see 1, 2, 3. Oh my God, if I can pass Zola Budd, I'm in third place, and we're already on the backstretch now. And so I just remember running for my life, but trying to hold on. Everybody else was now woken up as well. I wasn't going to catch um, the gal who eventually won. Maricica Puica from Romania won, and then my good friend Wendy Sly from Great Britain was in second place, and then I managed third, and the American Cindy Bremser was just behind me, and then boom, boom, everybody was coming in after that. So
Wow.
that was the race. That for me was the race, and yeah, it was an amazing day for sure.
Wow. And running past that finish line knowing that you had just won an Olympic medal, what was going through your mind?
Oh, I think I mean, I just was exhausted for one thing, but I just was
Yeah.
like, again, this time I bent over, and I remember just going, what just happened? Wow. And then I looked up, and I kid you not, all those people in the stadium, and may he rest in peace. It'll make me cry, but I saw a dear friend, another kind of coach, mentor, a sport medicine doctor, Dr. Jack Taunton, and he's a pioneer in Canada. And he passed away. Oh, it's only been not even a year ago, but there he was with his arms up, and I remember just going, Jack, and he was like, actually, this is funny. I said, Jack, I like your haircut. It's the silliest thing. But he and I, the day before, had gone to the Vidal Sassoon, had this thing in the village where you could go and get your haircut. And I had long hair. I always had ponytail, big long ponytail. It was so hot, and I just got my hair all. I said, just cut it off, and I got my hair cut right off. Because I'm getting a big haircut too, and he got his hair cut off. It's just weird what can happen, you know. And then I
Yeah.
remember just waving at another friend and family member and a few others that I started to see and going, whoa, you know, it was a great moment, that's for sure. Yeah, but I
Wow.
was probably in some sort of shock at the same time.
Oh, I'm sure.
Everything
Wow.
that was going on, you know, it hit me much later. I had, after the drug testing and stuff, I had a really beautiful nighttime. By then, the sun went down, and I just went to the track, the kind of warm up track, and I just remember I had a few laps, just slow laps, just kind of taking it all in on a beautiful night. And my actually my coach from San Diego State somehow knew that I would want to go do that, and so then he sort of came out of the darkness, and you know that was Coach Fred LaPlante, and that was really cool to connect with him there as well. So yeah,
That's
it was a magical night, magical moment for me.
wow.
Hmm.
Such a cool story. Oh, that's amazing. I was getting goosebumps a couple times as you as you were telling that. That's so
Yeah.
awesome.
Oh,
Wow.
thank you. Thanks. Yep.
Yeah, that's amazing. Where do you keep your Olympic medal?
Oh, that's a funny one. I have this bag that's kind of my Olympic bag, I guess. It's a Canadian team backpack, and I have a couple of key sort of things, items in there. Over the years, I've, you know, done a lot of speaking, whether it's at schools or somewhere else, you know, community centers, you what have you. And so I just have all my favorite things in there so I can kind of pull them out when it makes sense to do that. So I have a couple of important medals just tucked inside my Canadian team jerseys, just in my pocket. And so if I'm speaking to kids or anybody, I put that jacket on because I always think, well, you look at me now, I say, I don't know, is this what an Olympic athlete looks like? Maybe not at this stage. And then I put that on and I pull that medal out of my pocket. And I go, you know what? Now I remember maybe I look a little more like one now, you know, and they get a chance to have a look at it. The kids, I tell them it's good luck if you just hang on to it for a little bit.
Wow, that's so cool. So you've mentioned some coaching, you mentioned you go to some schools as a speaker. What does your relationship with running look like these days?
Oh, I love to run. I've probably never enjoyed it more, to be honest. And
Wow.
I run. I don't run a lot. I run. I love doing all kinds of activities. I would say I'm a sort of a Zen person at heart, and so I love if there's a you know a forest or an ocean or it's a beautiful day. I just can't wait to throw my shoes on and go for a jog. So I do run for sure 2 or 3 times a week. I would say anywhere from, I don't know, 20 minutes to an hour if I sometimes a little longer if I'm really feeling inspired. And recently I did run, we had a city run together. My oldest son lives in New York, so we ran New York City Marathon a couple of years ago.
Oh, wow. How
And so
cool.
that was really cool. And we totally just did it taking photos and, you know, having
That's
a
the way to do it.
ball running through the streets of New York. So my relationship is strong as ever, and I've had the honor and privilege of being a coach at every level, and that's taken me, you know, around the world, continued to take me around the world. My yeah, my friends, my wonderful family, we've all somehow remained connected as really active people with kind of running, walking, hiking, all of that kind of stuff at the center of it. And I've enjoyed, you know, every aspect of it. And I feel lucky that I can still enjoy it at this vintage that I'm in now.
Oh, I love that so much. That is exactly what I love to hear. It really just should be a lifelong relationship and I love to hear it from
Hmm.
people like yourself who were at the absolute top level and just still have this joy for it all these
Hmm.
years later. I love that so much.
Yeah, I when the whole COVID thing happened. Do I dare even bring that up? But that was a tough time for everybody. But
Yeah.
my personal COVID project was really I developed just a website. It's just Coach Lynn, and you can find me there. But I wanted to put all the years of coaching and programs and videos and just things that I've all the resources that I've sort of been utilizing for myself over all these years, both as a coach and an athlete. And so I put that out there because just like you, what you're saying, there are so many people who will come to me and say, Lynn, I don't understand how you can like running. It's so hard. It hurts your back, your legs, your knees, and huffing and puffing. And, I thought, no, 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 no. Most anybody can run. It's just people do too much, too fast, too soon most of the time. And so my goal was to just sort of provide resources. So maybe people will, be at a personal pace that's right, and then they'll find a way to have their body adjust so they enjoy it at least for a while.
Well, that's
Yeah,
great. That's
yeah.
that's awesome. I love that you're doing that. And you said that that's coachlynn.com.
Oh, Coach Lynn, I don't, I'm not even coachlynn.org.ca, I think for sure. Or my name, you'd find it under Lynn Kanuka as well, I think. But
Okay.
yeah, it's just everything's for free, and it's just to help people make a start, and have a few programs to follow.
Well, that's great. That is
Mhm.
so great. Well, Lynn, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining the podcast.
Oh, I love it. I love what you're doing. I appreciate it fully and completely. And it was a joy to relive that moment with you today. So thank you.
Well, guys, that is all I have for y'all today. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you again to Lynn Kanuka for the great conversation. Please make sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, and then join me tomorrow as we remain in 1984 for a special Podception episode featuring Kyle Walker of Back of the Pack podcast. I'm your host, Running Up That Hillary, and this has been Today in Running History. The two had never raced before. Yes, they had raced before. They hadn't raced each other. Jesus. Okay. One of these women would have won gold. Oh my God. Okay. Okay. Let's just try again. This whole thing. Okay. God, that was a painful one to get through. Oh my God. And then I have like two words that I don't know how to say in this next part. So let's practice that again. Okay. That's gonna be as good as possible. I have them both on my screen, these two. And you'll see which ones once we get to that. It'll be fun for everyone. Okay. Her citizenship was citizenship. Okay. Zola Budd initially recovered from the collision, but lost the lead to Marichika Puika. I'm gonna copy paste this thing that tells me how to spell it so I can put it here. God. Okay. That's what we'll do. Okay. Oh crap. I forgot to add, it's Kanuka. Is that how
Oh,
you pronounce
Kanuka.
it?
Yes,
Kanuka.
Kanuka.
Okay.
Way to go. Way to go.
As soon as I start recording. So that's okay. My editor will get that part out unless he wants to throw this in because I also have bloopers in there. So of myself looking like an idiot.
Oh,
Okay.
no worries. Okay.
All right, we'll restart that because that I should have asked that before I pushed record. Comment and share, and then join me tomorrow as we no. Okay, let's try it again. Oh my God. We're gonna have to have like a whole YouTube channel that's just bloopers. Because this is gonna be like a good like 8 minutes of this episode. All right.